I hope you don't think that all cops are bad. All cops are corrupt. All cops are racist. All cops racially profile. Because the truth is, most cops don't.
Officer Lehman actually works with the city prosecutor's office. He runs this nonprofit called WYSM, like, Why'd You Stop Me? And what they do, what they allege to do, is try and create more peace and less violence between cops and members of the community. Well, Officer Lehman's nickname, is like street name, is Tiny, which is kind of weird because this guy is huge. Like, he's a mixture between a 1980s wrestler and Buzz Lightyear. I'm gonna let you hear Officer Lehman, Tiny, in his own words.
But if we focus on the good and we work from a place of positivity, I believe we'll be stronger, we'll be safer, and we'll be all the better. So I've developed a theory called the bad restaurant theory. And I'm going to briefly explain it to you. I think it'll help us to grow. Think back to a bad restaurant experience you had. You got it yet? Well, that bad restaurant experience, that bad restaurant, the restaurant you won't go back to, let's talk about that experience. So you walked into a restaurant one day, excited to give it a try, or excited because somebody said it was really good. You sat down, the service wasn't good. Or maybe the server was just rude, mean, demeaning. Maybe the food was cold. Maybe the food was overcooked. Maybe the food was late. Maybe you had a long wait.
That's right. Officer Lehman actually explains police brutality against black people, against brown people in Long Beach using a bad restaurant theory, Yelp reviews. Now look, maybe he was hungry when he made this. You know, he's a big guy. I get it. But at the same time, really? Can you really equate the struggles of black and brown people with the Long Beach Police Department and police departments across this nation with a Yelp review?
You left that restaurant and you told yourself, your friends, and your family you'd never go back. As a matter of fact, isn't it true that when people asked you about the restaurant, you said, that restaurant sucks? If you saw people that said that the restaurant was good, you argued with them. You explained how bad your experience was. And you had a hard time accepting the fact that they said it was good. Now, that restaurant experience could have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago. And most of us watching this video right now didn't try the restaurant a second time. As a matter of fact, some of us tried a second time and it was still bad, so the third time is a no-no. Absolutely no shot.
It might be that the reason Officer Lehman doesn't really get it is because he's sitting in his home in Huntington Beach with like the granite countertops and the spiraling staircase, and he's suffering from something called white privilege that he's not really aware of. So Officer Lehman wants us to give the Long Beach Police Department a second chance. I want to make a point to you, man. There was no second chance given to Dante Jordan when he was shot in the back 6 times by officers. And that officer was let off. He can't go back into the restaurant, dude, and try that taco one more time. That's not happening for him. There's no going back for Lionel Gibson. He can't go back to the LBPD restaurant for a second time. He was executed. He's dead, man. I don't know where you're getting off with like bad service and cold food and it came late. No, that's not what the Long Beach Police Department is doing to us. They're not showing up with late or cold food. It was just reported by the Long Beach Post, a paper that has some very questionable political ties to some of the most powerful people in Long Beach, right? But even they reported that the Long Beach Police Department is pulling over black and brown people at a substantially higher rate. That's what's happening. And you're talking about some kind of second chance Yelp review? Dude, this is a systemic problem. But you are trying to mislead us, misdirect us, while at the same time being sent by our city attorney to speak to black and brown youth? You cannot empower youth and empower the community to stop violence when you perpetuate the violence systemically at the top with the money that you influence our politicians with. Get out of that business, and then maybe you will have an actual moral ground to stand on. And we can listen to you without saying, what's up with this guy and his Yelp reviews?
People that we know are telling us that the restaurant is good, but we're having a hard time believing it because of our experience. When others ask us about it, we say it's not good. We're stuck in a mindset that the restaurant could never change. Because of our experience, we believe that the restaurant hasn't made changes that the restaurant might have actually made. That server's not there, or that server's having a better day. The cook isn't cooking food that way. The restaurant has seen the error in its ways and has fixed it.
So let me get this right. We're having a hard time understanding that the Long Beach Police Department has seen the error of its ways and it's changed, and the burgers aren't burnt now. No, we haven't seen that. What are you talking about? This is the same Long Beach Police Department that had a contract with the IACP, a whole group of chief of police that wrote a report about the Long Beach Police Department. That report came with a contract that said, when we complete our report, as we write our report, the police department can read it, but you cannot edit it. But when the police department read that report, they canceled the contract because that report gave way too much information about what the Long Beach Police Department does and is doing, so they shut it down. Just like you shut the protesters down on July 4th who are recalling Mayor Garcia, because anytime there is political dissent in this city, you mean to shut it down. Shut it down. You've seen the error in your ways? Well, let the report out. The IACP Phase 4 report. Instead, you haven't seen any errors. Your own police department, in bed with the city manager, they keep making excuses. Chief Luna even says he hasn't seen the report. Well, that's baloney, because Chief Luna also said, oh, the IAC report, that doesn't really matter. We've already done most of the reforms it calls for. Wait a minute. I thought the city manager said that the police department hasn't seen the report. I thought they haven't seen the report. Jason, Mr. Lehman, Tiny, you can't have it both ways. Either the police department is transparent with us, tells us the truth, doesn't try and use the city attorney to hide reports that civil rights attorneys have been using to win cases worth millions of dollars taken away from taxpayers. Either you stand with that, or Chief Luna is lying. It's one or the other, man. You can't have it both ways. And you can't go out preaching to gang members and to youth when you're a part of the systemic corruption. That's called hypocritical, my man. That's hypocritical. And you can say, oh, I'm just a police officer. That's politics. No, man. The city prosecutor is an elected official. You are supporting the city prosecutor through your nonprofit. You are involved in a political process because you are being used as propaganda to say that the police force is good. But you're not talking about the police injustice. Particularly the police political influence on elected officials who have a vote on how much money you make. This is the worst thing about what you're doing. You have over 12,000 followers for your nonprofit, and you're trying to convince them that the Long Beach Police Department has seen the error in its ways and has changed like some kind of restaurant. But you know the truth, man. You know that when an officer is involved in a shooting, they can't even be interviewed. They can't even be interviewed. That's how powerful the police union that you support with your salary, that's how powerful they are. A police officer can shoot a resident and they can't even be interviewed. Even the Long Beach DA will not interview that officer to get to the bottom of what happened. That's how corrupt things are. But you don't say anything about that. You just say,
a police officer's strongest tool is right here. It's not a bullet. It's not a taser. It's not a baton. It's the ability to tactically communicate, the ability to help unite, the ability to show people that we're human. A police officer is not going to be soft on crime.
okay, so a police officer's most important weapon is his mind. Well, let's talk about your mind. I just experienced your intellectual capacity. Because all day for nearly 6 hours, the police stalked out at the park that our community members were protesting at. We were literally there eating cupcakes and ceviche. And you got sent squad car after squad car every 5 minutes, talking about SUVs full of 3 to 4 police officers, sometimes several at a time. You even sent a paddy wagon, this huge 15-passenger van, to intimidate us, driving up and down. Your officers would park in a corner and stalk. But you say your biggest weapon is your mind. So then what were you thinking? What was command post who sent you? What were they thinking when they spent the amount of police resources and show of force on a group of protesters peacefully protesting in a park? Meanwhile, the city is ablaze with fireworks. Even while we were protesting, we saw people using illegal fireworks, M80s, putting the city on fire. And what are you guys doing? Tunnel vision on us. Tunnel vision on peaceful protesters using our democratic right to recall Mayor Garcia. You're completely focused on us using taxpayer dollars on peaceful protesters instead of focusing on obvious, very loud, illegal activity. About 3 sergeants came to me in the course of 3 hours as we peacefully assembled. Your greatest weapon is your mind? Looks like to me your greatest weapon is intimidation or threats. Because when you shut us down because we didn't have a permit. We didn't have a permit to protest. Oh, that's right. In Long Beach, you need a permit to protest the mayor. Well, Tiny, maybe your mind doesn't know much about the civil rights movement. But Dr. King didn't get a permit when he marched in Montgomery or in Selma. There's no permit involved. What there were guys like you who used pretext like a permit to shut down the voice of the people, to shut down the voice of those people left out, on the fringes, demoralized, punished by police brutality. That's what happened. You want to talk about your mind being your greatest weapon? There was no neighbor that reported, hey, those protesters out there, they're making a lot of noise. No. But you know what there were neighbors saying? Most of Long Beach was complaining about the noise coming from the fireworks, not the noise coming from civil disobedience. Not the noise coming from political protesters. Not the noise coming from peaceful protesters. No, the neighbors were coming out to join with us. But we're who you shut down, not the fireworks. This is why the city is enraged. Because guys like you have the audacity to try and gaslight us, misdirect us, into thinking that you have our best interest in mind. When on Independence Day, July 4th, you shut down a peaceful protest while illegal conduct was surrounding you after waiting hours to pounce on us. I don't know what you call intelligent policing, but this isn't it, Tiny. It just isn't it.
A police officer's strongest tool is right here.
Recall Garcia! 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 Recall Garcia!
shoot! Hands up, don't shoot!